Hi, I'm Miss Cox, and today I'm going to talk about formulas and functions in Excel 2010. So I'm going to go through several different things. First, we'll talk about basic math, then math symbols, using cell references, and then special functions. So let's get started with basic math. Formulas and functions in Excel. Really, that's all just about having Excel do math for you. Whenever you want Excel to do math for you, you have to start by typing an equal sign into the cell. Now once you've done that, you can type in any sort of math. So for example, you could even do 2 plus 2, 2 plus 2. So if I do 2 plus 2 here, if I type that in, to lock in, or actually have Excel do the math for you, you have to hit Enter or Tab. So I'm going to hit Enter, and as soon as I hit Enter, you'll see it has changed the 2 plus 2 into 4. So it does the math for you when you plug it in. You'll notice up here that it still has the equation up here that I used. Now, you can do anything. You can do subtraction, 8 minus 2 plus 27, whatever you want. Type it in, make sure you have an equal sign at the beginning, and then hit Enter, and it will immediately take care of the math for you. Now, let's talk about math symbols, because plus and minus are the same. The problem is when you start multiplying and dividing, you have to use some different symbols. So for example, let's say I wanted 8 times 8. Well, I can't do this. 8x8, Excel won't know what to do with that. You have to use the star or the asterisk for multiplication. So when you want to multiply in Excel, you have to use this asterisk. Hit Enter and bam, done. For division, instead of using the division symbol, you're going to have to use the /. So if I wanted to be 8 by 9 or whatever, what you / in come on, click. Anyway, you need in order to actually have division. Oh, now you're cat. So this and for how many places you want. So when something has a bunch of decimal places like this, there are options up here. This will increase the number of decimals. This one, so if I want to decrease the decimals to maybe just 1 decimal, I can use that. I can also say, hey, maybe this is money. I can change it instead of general to a specific amount of money, currency. And I can say that I want a certain symbol for the currency. And then I can even change the decimals from there. I could also change it into a percentage if I wanted to change something into a percent. But anyway, those are little bonus tools for you. Alright, so let's talk now about using cell references. So basic math, you have to type an equal sign in, and then you type in your formula. The thing is, you can also use cells in your formula. So for example, instead of typing in, let's say I wanted to type 4 times 33. I could do 4 times 33. I could also type 4 times and then the cell that has 33. So I could type this, and now if I hit Enter, it'll multiply the 2. And the best part about this is it's using a cell reference. It's referencing cell D5. But the best part is, if I go back to cell D5, oh, come on. If I go back to cell D5, I can change D5. Let's say I make it larger, plus 77 or 87. Once I hit Enter, watch how this cell changes too. So this cell will automatically change because it has a cell reference in it. It's referencing this cell. So if D5 changes, D7 is also going. You can use cell references by themselves. You can just use cell references. So for example, I could put equals, and I can either click or type them in. So I'm going to try typing this one in. I'm going to go with E4 minus D4. Okay? You can click on them, you can type them in, hit Enter when you're done. Now, the thing here is that you can use just cell references. You can also use a mix of cell references and numbers. You can also have lots of different things. So for example, you could have equals this plus this plus this plus this plus this. You can have long formulas. Hit enter when you're done, and it will total it up for you. All right, now, that's all cool. Here's the last thing I want to show you. Special functions. Excel has some nice special functions for you that are built in. Now, there's a whole formulas tab here, and there's some special things here, but really, you probably don't need to know that many different functions. You can go to insert a function, but really, the most important functions to know about are sum and average. So, if you want Excel to do some special math for you, instead of, let's say I needed to add all these numbers up, I'll add another number in here. Let's say I wanted to add all these numbers up, but I didn't want to type in equals this plus this plus this plus this. So let's say I didn't want to actually add each of these boxes up. I wanted to do it an easier way. Well, the easier way is to use the sum function. Excel will automatically sum up those cells for you, but you have to type in SUM for sum. Then you type a parenthesis, and in the parentheses you type the cells that you want it to sum. Now, there's a couple ways of doing this. You could click and then put a comma between each, but that's really not that much easier. The best way to do it, if you want to make it simple on yourself, is to use a colon like this. And when you type a colon, that's basically the symbol in Excel for through. So for example, I want D4 here through cell D8. So I'd put D8. And you'll see it'll automatically put a box around those cells because it's going to sum those cells up, D4 through D8. If you didn't know how to type that, you could also click, hold down, and then drag down. And you'll see it'll automatically put that in for you, D4 colon D8. To finish, close the parenthesis, hit enter. Done. And remember, the beauty of this is if you change any of these numbers, I change this to 100, this number will automatically change. Okay. There's another really interesting function that you should know about, which is the average function. So instead of, when you average something, you add up all the different numbers and you divide by the total amount of numbers. So for example, if you wanted to average test scores, you'd add up all the students' test scores and then divide by the total number of students to see what the average score was in a class. So that can be time consuming, it can waste a lot of your time. The great thing about Excel is it will do that for you. So you type in average instead of sum, because we're going to have it average, type a parenthesis, and then just like before, you could click and press comma between the cells that you want it to average. Okay, you can actually type them if you wanted to type D5, D4, D5, E4, okay? Or remember, you can use that through colon option. So I could put D4 colon D8 if I wanted that range of cells, okay? When you're done, hit enter and it will automatically average those cells. So what it's doing is it's adding all those cells together, and then since there are 5 numbers, it's adding those together and then dividing by 5 to find what's the average number. Now, these were the basics. I want to review with you these different things on the next page here. So I have a page here set up with January purchases. These are just examples. But take these examples and I want us to take a look at things. So January purchases, let's say I needed to calculate the type in equals, and my computer's being a little slow. Come on. I may have to pause here and go back. Okay, so now let's do some math practice. The first thing we're going to do here is we're going to find out what the sales tax of each of these items would be. So I have some imaginary January purchases. To find out the sales tax, I type in equals, and then I can click or type in the cell address, and I'm going to multiply that times 9% because that's the sales tax in California. Hit enter, and it's going to pop up how much sales tax I would pay on that, and you'll see that's a lot. You pay a lot of sales tax on a computer. Now I can do the same thing here, equals this times, and actually if you didn't want to type in the percent, the decimal version is 0.09. Okay, and remember, one trick you can use, and this video is not really about the fill tool, but you can click and drag on this bottom box and click and drag down. It will automatically fill in that equation. It will automatically actually move over to the new cell. It's pretty nice. Now, let's see, you've calculated out the tax. Let's find out what the totals are. So to do the totals, we're going to use that sum function. So I'm going to type equals SUM, parentheses. This one I'm going to try clicking and dragging across, and remember, a colon goes in between to show that it's going to be this cell through this cell. Hit enter when I'm done. I'm going to do the same thing here. This time I'll show you another way of doing it. You could click on each cell, and oops, I didn't go in order. You could click on each cell and add them up like this. That is another way to do it. Both ways work. But if you have a lot of cells, it's much easier to use the sum and then to have the first number through the next number. Now lastly, let's say I wanted to find out the average. Let's say I wanted to find out the average number of, or let's say the average amount of sales tax I spent. Okay, so for these 4 different purchases, what was my average tax that I paid? I type in average, parentheses, and I can click and drag down, close parentheses, hit enter. I could also, let's say I wanted to average what was the average amount of money I spent on these 4 items. I could type in equals average, parentheses, and you can put a comma between the numbers too. Now the comma only works if you're using a function in Excel. So if I have average typed and then parentheses, you can use the commas. Now if I just had equals this comma, this comma, this, that's Excel's going to go, what are you trying to tell me to do? It won't know. So the commas are only helpful if you're typing into a function that Excel already knows. And you'll notice when you do this, Excel will try to tell you how to format it, so it will understand what you type in. Okay, so with that, let me just review. So remember, basic math, you always type in an equal sign at the beginning. You can always just add a couple of numbers together, or you can do fancier math. The math symbols, remember, use the plus and minus sign for plus and minus. When you multiply, you need to use the asterisk, remember this little guy? Or you can call it the star, whatever works for you. But that little star or asterisk is the multiplication symbol. And remember, the / is your division symbol. And then cell references just mean that you are using the address of a cell inside your formula. And then lastly, the special functions. A function in Excel is when you are using a word at the beginning, like equals average or equals sum, and Excel is doing some special math for you, not just adding up some numbers or subtracting some numbers with symbols that you've included. Okay? So with that, hopefully that helps you understand formulas and functions better. And yeah, feel free to leave your comments. Thank you.